Hello everyone, this is Masaya Yamaguchi coming to you from Manhattan, New York. In the previous episode, we looked at an 1839 newspaper article and confirmed that the word blues existed before it became associated with music. So when did that word become music? Today, I want to focus on one idea. The blues was not born as music. It was established as a commodity. From 1850 to 1920, we are going to follow those decisive 70 years through primary sources. Take a look at this piece of sheet music. This is I Have Got the Blues Today, published in 1850. The blues here is not the music we know today. The meaning is simply a feeling of melancholy, a blues mood, so to speak, an English expression that goes back centuries to the Middle Ages. Let's listen to it. As you can hear, this is neither a 12-bar blues nor does the melody use blue notes. And this is the key point. The word blues was already circulating as a commercial product before it became established as a musical form. Now let's move on to 1908. This is I Got the Blues by Antonio Maggio. One important thing to notice here is that the piece is written in a ragtime form. Ragtime, represented by composers such as Scott Joplin, was already an established commercial musical style at the time. In other words, the blues did not initially emerge as an independent musical genre. Instead, it appeared within an existing commercial framework, ragtime. Let's listen. Now, for the first time, we see a major change. We have a 12-bar structure, and we begin to see the use of blue notes. In other words, the positions of the tonic, subdominant, and dominant within the 12-bar structure become standardized. Put simply, these are the places where the music changes direction, moves away, and creates tension. This is the first point where the word blues becomes firmly connected to a recognizable musical form. But there is something important to understand. This was not an invention. Antonio Maggio simply incorporated elements of folk blues that already existed within black communities into his composition, turning them into sheet music, a commercial product. In other words, music that already existed on the streets and in everyday life was later organized and packaged as a commodity. There is one person who played a decisive role in this process. That person was W.C. Handy, often called the father of the blues. But he was not the inventor of the blues. He was a compiler and popularizer who organized music that already existed in various forms and presented it in a way that could be widely understood and commercially distributed. You might think of him as something like a collector and editor, someone who gathered anonymous verses and musical ideas that were already circulating and brought them to a wider audience. He deserves enormous credit for popularizing the blues. In 1912, Memphis blues. In 1914, St. Louis blues. This is where popular blues begins to establish itself as a commercial market. And then, in 1920, everything changes. Mamie Smith's Crazy Blues becomes the first major hit blues recording by a black singer. So let's look at the entire process. In 1850, blues was a word used in a largely white commercial culture. In 1908, it becomes increasingly fixed as a musical form. And in 1920, with Mamie Smith's Crazy Blues, popular blues becomes firmly established in the marketplace. Then that music explodes through the voice of black performers themselves. This is the point where the meaning of the blues begins to change fundamentally. From 1850 to 1920, that's roughly 70 years. The blues did not suddenly appear. It circulated first as a word. Then it was organized as music, and finally it exploded as an expression of identity. That accumulated weight of time is what makes it real. When you follow the primary sources, you can see this process clearly. I've put recordings from this period together in the Spotify link in the description. I encourage you to listen for yourself and hear the evidence. Next time, in episode 4, Did the Blues Come from Africa? We'll examine that question using a recording from 1906. This is Masaya Yamaguchi.